Man, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Watch Party Podcast. I'm going to be your host today, Vernon Matthews. And man, we are looking to have a phenomenal time. We have a great guest that's going to be coming on, Jay. He's going to share some things about his background as a farm kid and talking about some of his near-death experiences. I think this is going to be a very informative episode. So we make sure you share this, guys. Let everybody know about it. Also, you can visit us on Kingdom Purpose Media, where you can see all of our different podcasts, all of our hosts that have shows that come on our network, Kingdom Purpose TV, where we're always TV with a purpose. But we're going to be focusing now on our interview with Jay. So we're going to bring Jay in right now. How are you doing, friend?
I'm doing all right, brother.
Man, that's
I'm
what I'm
doing
talking
good,
about.
man.
Hey, before we get started, Jay, tell us a little bit about who you are and your background, and then we'll jump into some questions here in a second.
See, I tell some people, I say, when you're only 35 and ask that question, it goes pretty quick. But when you're 76, it takes a lot longer.
I
It's like
understand.
you got more to say. No, but all in all, I was raised on a working farm with a lot of cattle, and we did a lot of ag spraying with airplanes, and a lot of responsibility from the get go, from being young. And but I did that, did the high school thing, I worked nights uh, for 3 out of my 4 years in high school. I started school, got out at 3:45, and I started working at a small agriculture family in a small farm town from 4 till mid 12:30 at night, back up at 5:30 in the morning, do chores and go back and shower and go back to school again. So it's one of those things. I got out of that and went in the Marine Corps, and that didn't last too long because I died. I went in the Marine Corps. I enlisted in '67, went in early '68, and died November 12th, '69. I spent a year in the hospital, and then I when I got out of that, I kind of rehabbed a little bit. I did an entrepreneurial thing. I died again in another car accident. Um, did more corporate and entrepreneurial stuff. Did uh, I had a really really good job. That lasted about 6 months, and I died again. And uh, from there, everything went good for about 10 years. They retired me when I was 41. They put me out to long term disability because I had so many paralysis. I was a risk factor.
Hmm.
And but from there, I as soon as I retired, I got to do something, or they retired me again, and so I started more companies, and then at 65, we moved, and uh, not too far, a couple hundred miles, and on some acreage, and built another house, and I started a couple more businesses, and I don't know, life is short. People don't know how fast it goes, and I don't think they value their time here because God's only given us enough time that we are totally, completely alive, and I'm mostly paralyzed and I'm in a power wheelchair right now. But a lot of people don't, and I say it like this, and I don't know if it's the right way to say it or wrong way, but I say it, is that I don't think people have enough of a good appreciation for time in their life,
Hmm.
and what they can do with their life and what life can offer them. And before they know it, the time has run out because time is the only currency that you have that you don't know what the balance is. From the I mean, from the minute you're conceived, God gives you X number of days of life, whether that's 7,322 days, 16 hours, 43 minutes, and 9 seconds. You're done.
Hmm.
And you can't check that balance like calling your bank and see
Right.
what the balance is in your bank account. So you don't know. So that's where I say time kind of comes into a factor along with the appreciation people should have for what they can offer others, how they can help others, how I don't know. I've had a lot of things in my life, and then I should have died from MRSA staph. That was really, really bad. And then 4 years ago, I had COVID Delta, and they told my wife to go home and make funeral arrangements. And I didn't quit. 5 months in 4 hospitals, and it reparalyzed me worse than I was, and I've been fighting back from that. But
Well,
I'm not going to quit.
let me ask you something. You said you mentioned in the beginning you died or you almost died.
Well, to me, I died because I wasn't in my body. I was gone. Um, the doctors were walking away from my body when I was in the Marine Corps. They were giving up. They gave up. They were leaving.
What happened
And
to put you in that situation?
well, to put me in that,
Yes.
I was taking another Marine that I had stopped to visit just briefly. He'd not been married very long. We were both 19. His wife was 18, and I was undercover criminal intelligence,
Okay.
and he worked for me. And they found out where he lived, and they'd beat him up real bad, and they'd cut him. They'd sliced his head open and down over his ear.
They being who?
People that found out he was tracking them undercover,
Gotcha. All right. Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
just like a undercover cop.
Right.
Same.
And they
That's
found
what
out.
we.
And what year was this?
1969,
Gotcha. All right.
November
Finish.
12th. No, November 12th, 1969, and I got him in the car because he was bleeding out bad. I put his wife in the middle, and I had her put her arm around his neck and put a compress up on his head to hold the because I didn't know how much blood he lost. I didn't know how much more he was going to lose, and if we'd make it there. So we went headed for the emergency, but at the Naval Hospital at Pendleton. But a semi had pulled across the road, had no lights on, no side markers. One headlight was working. We found out later, totally loaded with orange crates, somewhere around 80,000 pounds. And we had cars behind us, and all witnesses, all testified. And speed limit was 55. We were all running about 52. That's
On your way
at
to the
least that's what,
hospital.
on the way to the hospital, and we hit the semi. They said I was on my brakes for about 40 feet. And the gentleman behind me was a full bird colonel. And in his testimony, he said, if we hadn't hit that semi, they would have hit the semi. Because
Mm.
he said it was like hitting you know, something dark in the middle of the dark. It was just
So
nothing there.
you got in an accident and hit a semi with your friend bleeding that you're trying to get to the hospital.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
God gracious.
Exactly.
Now,
And
so at this moment they rush you to the hospital. I'm assuming.
well, three other Marines that were on, three Marine Corps captains, one of them still alive. Um, they pulled me and his wife out of the car, and we were dead. I mean, they couldn't. There was nothing. So when we hit, I was in a '66 Ford Galaxy 500 XL that went from 17 feet and 4 inches long to under 10 feet. We were crushed. So it was dark out. The only thing they had to work with was the light of the fire that was under the hood, under the dash, and we were on fire, all of us. My leg was on fire, all that, and then the fire in the trunk. So um, that was, and they couldn't get me out. They had to dig my head physically out of the steering wheel. I mean, I had 32 facial fractures, skull fracture up here, head was on fire, all that stuff. And they got me out, and then finally, and Walter says, "I'm sure we broke some of your bones pulling you out because three of us were pulling on you, yanking you, ripping you, because the car was going to blow up completely and burn, and we wanted to get you out." But anyhow, and then Linda came out easier. Linda ended up being in a coma for 18 months, and then passed away, and that unfortunately. And Roy wasn't broke up as bad as I am or was, but he had 60% burns over his body, third-degree burns, and he just passed away here from a heart attack about 6 months ago. So out of all that, I end up being the one that's still alive. Why?
So
And that
they pulled you out, and they could pronounce you dead when they pulled you out.
Well, they didn't pronounce me dead. They got me in an ambulance. They got me
Okay.
to the naval. They got all of us to the naval hospital.
Okay.
But while I was out of my body, Vernon, I was up my back up against the ceiling, looking down at my body on the table, and the doctors finally, there was three doctors, and they finally decided to walk away. It was beyond hope. So there was another gentleman came in, and he was a oral surgeon, and maybe he got called because of the fact that my face was all ripped off.
Right.
Okay, I I don't know. I mean, I I didn't have a whole lot to do with it,
Right.
except I was the object that they were working on. And but the three were walking away, and this guy came over. His name was Dr. Gray, and the Navy, they wear the whites,
Yes.
the white uniform, and he had whites on. And I remember his name tag. I remember seeing it from up above, and everything was red. And I was cussing and swearing every foul Marine Corps word. I was making up bad words. I was going to kill all of them because they weren't helping me, because
Right.
I felt that I was alive, but I was up here. And
And you saw everything that was happening below.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And I could feel myself virtually trying to, like, my back was starting to go through the ceiling. In
Gotcha.
other words,
Gotcha.
like I was done. They're walking away. This Dr. Gray walked in. Well, he thumped around. He looked at me. He was messing around and blood all over everything. And they he finally cut a tracheotomy,
Okay.
sliced me open. And when he did, the blood just went out like a whale surfacing. I mean, all over the walls, all over him. I mean, his whites weren't white anymore.
Right.
They weren't even pink. They were red. And what had happened was two of my four broken ribs on my left side had punctured my lung here, and one of my ribs of the three that were broken on my right side punctured that lung.
Right.
So I had drowned to death in my own blood. Um, uh, and my heart, was under the pressure. It couldn't beat, and
Right.
the blood was gone from it. I couldn't breathe because I was drowned from my own blood.
Right.
So the other doctors, when I did that, they turned around and came back. Now,
Okay.
why they didn't do a tracheotomy, I don't have a clue. I mean,
Right.
maybe this guy being the oral surgeon is going like, oh man, he's really screwed up here. I don't know.
Right.
and and I'll never have an answer because I just won't. And but it was probably 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't know. Time stands still, and I felt no pain at all. And
Mm-hmm.
zero, none. Whether it's shock, whether it's because you're, so some people can say an out of body experience. Well, it was definitely out of body. I know
Right.
that, but to my mind, I was gone, because if he hadn't have done the tracheotomy, I'd have just gone through the roof and I'd gone to purgatory or heaven or wherever I was going to go, and it was just done.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, you know, and from there I was in a coma, and then they put me back in another coma, and the story can go on for a long time, but
Right. But you came
that's what
back.
happened.
Now that was that time, but you said you had another time when something happened.
Yeah, and then in early September 1973, I had a drunk hit me almost head on out in the middle of the cornfields in northern Illinois on a pretty narrow road, black or highway, but it was a narrow road. And he'd been thrown out of one bar, and they put him in his truck because he was so drunk he couldn't walk. He couldn't. They just put him in his truck. Well, he came to, and he started his truck up and he drove to the next town. Well, then he started getting out of his truck, and he fell out of his truck onto the pavement, and somebody came out of the bar and they stuck him back in his truck. Well, he started his truck up after a bit, and here he's coming towards me, halfway. The towns were about 8 miles apart, so
Right.
about halfway. Now I'm talking the days before pagers
Yeah.
and all the fancy
Right.
uh, cutting tools and all that stuff. There was a car behind me apparently, and they went on to the next town. Well, the next town's only about 400 people. So there's not much there. They found somebody, they got a little emergency vehicle, and they came out and they were working on me. And out of that, when we hit, I I had watched him, but I thought, you know what, maybe he's just looking at the cornfields. Maybe it's an old farmer. He's just like, kind of, oh, I see a car coming. And but he ended up being totally intoxicated badly. And but when we hit we hit almost frame to frame on the left side, his left side, driver's side, obviously. It took my engine motor out. It threw it over here, my roof. It took the side of the car mostly all off except for the back end. And it was a brand new 73 Monte Carlo. I had about 300 miles on it, unfortunately.
Mm.
But you know, but anyhow, it when I hit, I remember the sound of the hit, and I remember rolling several times down into a deep ditch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm I am told that the people that stopped were the ones they realized, okay, hey, there's a person in the car. Yeah, he didn't get thrown out because
Right.
the other gentleman he didn't have a seatbelt on, so he got thrown out of his pickup truck and run over by his own truck and killed. That's
Wow.
how he died. So I had my seatbelt on and didn't get thrown out. But your window, um, the part that holds your window pillar on the left side,
Right.
it ripped off, and that all came in. That's all. If you look, I've got a picture of looking in the passenger's door over at the other side, and you can't. How they ever got me out, I don't know either.
Mm-hmm.
But it had severed my deltoid muscle, put the bone out the back of my arm, more broken ribs, face. I remember being conscious enough that my mouth was full of glass, but I couldn't really tell you what happened, even though I was aware of what was going on while I was rolling, and the noise was real bad. So, and I was bleeding bad, and so I eventually was bleeding out, and I started coming out of my car, kind of like back in the Marine Corps, except I was going up into the air, just up and up and up and up. And after about, it probably took them 15, 20 minutes to get there to start some kind of process.
Right.
And when they did, they realized I was out of I well, I didn't have any blood, so I can only presume I was dead because at that point I was hearing. I'll say angels.
Right.
I don't know that they were angels, but I heard voices. It was calm. I was not in any pain. I I felt like I was being welcomed upwards.
Okay.
That's just the best way I can put it. But they put a couple of the guys up. I'm O positive, so I can take about any kind of blood. And they put a couple guys up on stretchers or close to the car, and but higher, obviously. And then stuck them in the arm, stuck me, and started feeding me blood.
Wow.
Now I
Right
don't,
there at the scene.
yeah, at the scene.
Wow.
While they were trying, well, because I was so crushed in the car, and they were trying to get me cut out,
Right.
but I had no blood. And of course, then they couldn't stop me bleeding once I probably got blood in. I don't know.
Right.
I saw that from way up in the air, but I I don't remember anything till about 3 or 4 days after that when I came around in the hospital. And they didn't tell me anybody else got killed. They didn't do any of that. And my mother, on about the fifth or sixth day, seventh day, something like that, she was visiting, and we only lived 7, 8 miles from the hospital, up off on the farm, and but she had a rolled up newspaper, and like your mom, she probably would have whooped your butt, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Okay,
Right.
well, she's thumping on me, beating me on the right side with that newspaper, and she said, and she was crying, and she says, "Quit doing this to us."
Right. Right. Right.
Because
Right.
if you think about it as a father, I mean, I'm presuming, if
Yeah.
you're a dad, like, God dang, son, you just got killed 3 years ago. You just did it again. I mean, it's like,
Right.
what's
Right.
going on?
Yeah.
So stop doing this. And so anyhow, that, and then I had the third time to jump into that, but I rehabbed out of it, and um, it took me a long time. I had to walk my fingers like this up the wall because I couldn't raise my arm. It didn't work. Now my left arm's the only one. That's the only body part I kind of have that works, and my hand works. My wrist is fused. My shoulder's all been multiple surgeries and stuff. But it is
Is
what it
this
is.
how? Is this how the paralysis happened?
No, sir. The paralysis happened on the next one. And that was July 4th, 1981. I was married the third time. I was married my second time, 3 weeks the day that it happened. And we'd been married on a Saturday in Madison, Wisconsin, or close to Madison, and drove up to Minneapolis area, south of Minneapolis. And that 3 weeks later, we were getting ready for the 4th of July. And we were going to go to a picnic or a parade, and we were going to, not a picnic, we were going to some people's houses and played volleyball and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And it was a hot day, and I'm real competitive, and I had some ostrich quill Lucchese pointy toe cowboy boots on and my blue jeans, and no, I took my shirt off, and I'm out there, and I'm 31 and a half years old. I'm in good shape. I'm ready
Right.
to rock and roll. And I mean, I had all the damage from before that limited me a little bit, but I pushed through it. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to. That just very competitive.
Right.
So when we got done with that, somebody says, "Hey, let's go swimming." Well, then there's a swimming pool right behind the property we um, where we've been playing volleyball. And so I rode my motorcycle over, and we'd had some drinks during the day. But my wife climbed on the back. We rode over, parked the bike, and I got to the swimming pool and up on this backyard. And I had three or four guys going to throw me in the pool. They're like, "Hey, let's throw Setchell in the water." And I thought, "No, no, 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 not yet," because I've got my cowboy boots on and I got my billfold in my pocket. So let me get my pocket, billfold out. I'll stick it in the boot, and then, hey, whatever. And the I got that done, and I thought, they started rushing towards me. I thought, oh no, I'm just going to jump in. So I jumped in feet first. Not, I didn't dive in. I jumped in feet first, in about 3.5 feet of water. And if you know how you put a hammerhead on a handle, you pound it down, and it compresses it, and that's what they happened to my neck. So I apparently had not bent my legs very much at all, and so I landed stiff-legged. And I also had contacts in, so I must have made I possibly threw my head back, and that was it. I broke my neck in four places. And over the years or later on, the doctors felt over my lifetime and all my surgeries, because I've had 15 back surgeries. So when somebody tells you that I've had one or two and they complain, don't tell me about it. I don't want to listen to you, you know?
Yeah.
And and my neck's all been fused, and but anyhow, the where was I at? We were talking about ah I was telling you about the surgeries about breaking the neck. Oh, the doctors felt that what probably happened was back in the Marine Corps when we hit that truck so hard.
Hmm.
I probably had some just minuscule fissure fractures in my vertebrae on my neck, but they healed.
Right.
The bone healed, but it wasn't bad enough to affect the spinal column. Now my back hurt badly. I spent 8.5 months in traction. Didn't get out of bed. 8.5 months on my back. And if you were on your back for 8.5 months, your back's gonna kill you if you don't have a bad back.
Right.
So my back, that's why I'm fused in so many places. But that's what caused my paralysis. Now there was I was starting to turn dark because I was for a lack of oxygen.
Right.
And when you've been in a swimming pool, and I know you've been in a pool sometime in your life,
Yep.
and
Yep.
somebody's gonna come up to you and yell in your ear, and they're gonna go, "Hey, Vernon, let's go out, let's go cannonballing or something."
Right. Right.
Well, and you can't hear what they say. It's more bubbling. It's more like blah 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 blah. You
Right.
can't. And when I watched people swimming over me, people jumping in, and I couldn't figure, why isn't somebody helping me?
Wow.
Well, well, at one point, somebody said, "Looks like Setchell might need some help." And they said, "No, no, no. He's a crazy old Marine. He'll get a hold of you and he'll hang on to you,
Right.
and you won't let you go." So that's why. kind of held things up for a bit. And but I got to the point where I knew I had to breathe. And there's two things that God makes you do automatically. One is your heart beats, and the other one is you breathe.
Right.
Because you can't think, I need to take a breath. I better exhale it.
Right.
I gotta take a breath. You can't do that.
Right.
And so um, it finally came time to breathe, and I couldn't hold my breath anymore. And I'd held it maybe 6 minutes, and because they said it was about 8 minutes till they got me going, getting me out. And when I sucked that air in, or the water in, I'm sorry, uh, probably through my nose and my mouth. I don't know. I don't recall. It sounded like that bubbling sound,
Right.
and
Right.
and everything went dark and quiet and silent, literally immediately. It just it just stopped. Time stopped. And I don't remember any, people talk about a tube or a light and all that other stuff, and some see it. I believe that 100%.
Right.
And, but I felt like I was inside of a tornado, like a
Mhm.
vortex, like spinning and going, and I was going faster and faster and faster. I knew there was an end. I could tell there was an end. I had no pain. I had no awareness of time. I was just going. And the next thing I know is I'm on my back in the hospital in Medina, Minnesota, and I had bolts in the side of my skull, and I was in traction in a circle bed, and there was a doctor telling me that I had jumped in a swimming pool and broken my neck in multiple places, and I was paralyzed from the shoulders down, and I basically probably would never have any function again. That they were going to put me in a halo cast, which I didn't know what the hell a halo cast is.
Right.
Uh, 3, 4, 5 weeks later, and uh, send me to a rehab facility, and I might have some function return. Maybe I could flip my shoulders or
Right.
something, but I wasn't looking at a real promising future at
Yeah.
that point. And the thing that I would like to make note of on here, because of your audience and because of what what this is really about,
Okay.
and that is that I was face down in my circle bed, and my wife was in front of me, and there was a gentleman there whose son had been in a car accident, and he was, I think, 12 years old, and he wasn't damaged badly, but he'd hit his head and he was in a coma. And so they had met in the waiting room, and my wife said, "This is Tom Cooper, and Tom would like to say a prayer for you. Would that be okay?" And hold on just a minute. I got my son coming and gonna give me a hug. Hey, buddy. Hey, love you. There you go. Thank you, pal. When you close the door, leave it just enough for Sadie to come in or out. Okay. Thank you. But at any rate, she said he'd like to say a prayer for you. If that's okay, blink your eyes, because when you're paralyzed, you can't go, "Hey, that's all right." And I blinked my eyes, and he said a prayer for our strength, the family, that I could recover, all that. And the way things worked out really, really well. It took a lot of work, a lot of prayer, a lot. But I've always wondered, if I had not accepted that prayer,
Mm.
would it have been like denying God?
Right. 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 Right.
And would I have ever gotten anything back?
Wow. What has
Think
this
about
done? What has this done? Because that's been a lot. What has this done to? Well, first of all, let me ask you this: after experiencing something like this, does death? Are you afraid of death, or does it make it so that you know that it's just the next phase to whatever else?
Yeah, it's another thing. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of I can't think anything I'm really afraid of at all
Right.
because I once you've been through what I've been through and plus over 6 dozen surgeries, um, I, I mean, what else am I, what are they going to do to me? Kill me? I mean, it's kind of like, no, I'm not, but it really puts it makes you wonder and it gives you that thought. I mean, I'm going to get back to one other thing. A lot of my life, I really, I like the verse Matthew 7:7, and I'm not a big Bible reader. I tried reading the Bible. I can't do it. I just can't do it. I probably could do it, but I just can't do it. So, but Matthew 7:7 with the knock and seek and ask and all this. I followed that a lot throughout my life, but more often than not, I believed because I believed it from back when I was in the Marine Corps, and that is so what is it, the 23rd Psalm? No, yeah, the 23rd is yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I shall feel no evil,
Yes.
for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So that's why I think about that. But in Vietnam, the saying was, yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I fear no evil because I'm the meanest mother in the valley, you know. But that's a sign of trying to be tough, keep that machoism going, so because you had to be tough. But that's why I say I don't, are bad things going to happen to me? Yes. Is life perfect? No. You know, um, we can all try for perfection, but perfection is God's business. Our business is just do the best we can, at least in my opinion. So I don't, but I've always gone back, like I said, I've always wondered if I would have denied that prayer, and some people would, that. Some people go, no, I don't need the prayer. I don't want it for me. But throughout my stay in the hospital, and and if you don't mind, I'll just go on kind of how this kind of culminated,
Hmm.
uh, because it'll answer your questions that I think you may be posing. Um, yes, I went to Sunday school. I had perfect attendance in Sunday school. I was born and raised Methodist, but we believe that Jesus died for your sins. He rose and sits at the right hand of the Lord, and so on and so forth. We believe all that, and I believed all that. It's a thing that as you get older, I don't know that I really realized it because I didn't have any bearing to think about it. Now, my dad told me when I was 10 years old, I saw my dad crying. I was on the tractor. My dad was crying. We left my grandmother's house. Well, her brother had died, and it was my great uncle John, which would have been his uncle. And he was apparently a very, very good man. I remember him. He passed when I was about 6 years old, so I don't remember him very well. Um, Nice guy. That's about all I can remember. And uh, but my dad was crying, and I never seen my father cry. And I was 10, like I said, and he explained to me that Uncle John had died, and he was a really good man, and he loved him, and he was just in sorrow. So, and then he went ahead to tell me that one day he will be dying as well. And that someday I will die, that I will be old enough, or if I live that long, who knows, like we talked about, uh, maybe I'll be 40, maybe I'll be 60, maybe I'll be 80. I don't, maybe I'll be 100. But I remember crying about that, thinking, I'm going to die. And here I knew that because through all the Sunday school classes, through confirmation into the church, all of that stuff. And so I didn't put, I didn't connect the dots with, to me, faith. And there's a difference between faith and believing and the word hope. You can hope you're going to do something, but if you've got faith and you've got the belief, 100%, without a doubt, it makes a world of difference. It makes a world of difference. And I don't believe that I had that. You know, the Marine Corps thing just happened. And it kind of gets back to a thing that you heard back when you were a kid too. I'm presuming. Sticks and stones will break my bones, and names will never hurt me. And I get back to that. It gets back to that issue, and uh, I heal. Your broken bones will heal. Your femurs will heal. My left foot was turned around backwards, and they got it back with the distal shaft and the tibula and surgeries, and and my and then they fixed it, kind of. But when you, but I just didn't have any. I didn't go to the Lord at that point. I didn't have um, a Lord moment. I didn't. And throughout that next few years, and I died again, of course, like we talked about, and that didn't affect me. Um, I mean, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe but it was words. It was words. And after I broke my neck, and once I moved to the rehab center called Sister Kenny Institute, uh, it was at that point on, but not right away. And I can't, and I've said this before, I don't, it didn't happen like the day I got there. It didn't happen 2 months later or 6 months later. Something did happen a couple of months later that kind of jogged my thoughts on it. But I didn't, it's a progression. At least for me, it was a progression. It wasn't, some people go out and they'll say, I looked at the bird in the tree and I saw Jesus and I changed my life. That wasn't me. But I went through the issue of, my mom and dad came and visited. I was about maybe 4 months after I'd broken my neck, and I'd been going to PT and OT, physical therapy and occupational therapy and such, and uh, and my mom said, she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm doing good." I said, I just don't know why me. Not woe is me, not bad,
Yeah.
but just why me? I mean, I'm not. I haven't gone out and committed murder. I haven't been a bad person. I mean, I've thrown an outhouse in the lake, along with a couple other guys that were cops that were friends of mine. We've done some mischievous stuff, just joking around, but nothing damaging. I mean, they fished the outhouse out of the lake and they stuck it back where it was. But little things like that. But why me? And it's not just, what did I do wrong that I keep getting this? Because it wasn't just once. I mean, most people don't have something like that. They have something. If somebody has something severe, they're in an accident one time. That's it. It's over. That's just it. But not time after time after time, and then I've got more times.
Yeah,
And
it has to be rough to be able to go through what you've been through. But it sounds to me like you understand that it has changed your life a little bit. And it seems like there are a few more times. And it's just amazing that it has to be God's grace that you're still here. And I know you're paralyzed, and so I hate to say this, but it seems as though you're doing phenomenal. Um,
well, yeah, I am, and my left hand works pretty good. I mean, my fingers have mostly been broken, my knuckles have been broken, my wrist is fused from bone from my right pelvis, and so on and so forth. But my hand works pretty good. My arm works good. My left one, my right one, the hand is this is my right hand. I mean, it's useless. Cut it off. It doesn't matter. And
no, we're
my
not
arm
cutting
got
it. We're not, because you just raised it.
no. I raised it from my shoulder.
Oh,
I,
okay,
I can
got you.
do it for my shoulder, but I don't have any. If I put my arm over my head like this, I can't raise my arm up. I don't have any
Got you.
tricep. I don't have any tricep.
Right.
It's dead. So I have to take it, and I pick my hand up like you pick your foot up to put your sock on, maybe, or something, or maybe, you know.
Well,
But
find out. Well, how can our audience? Because I know you have a book that you've written. Is that correct?
yes, sir.
Okay. And how
Yeah.
can our audience? What is the name of this book? What is it about? And how can we get it?
And I'll go. I'd like to go back on what I was talking about,
Oh,
but
okay.
I
Go, go.
for but I, I mean, which do you want first? I can tell you the book and stuff now,
No,
or
no. Tell me the book last.
okay. Well, what happened though was when my mom was there, I said, why me? And she said, Jay, you know what? You got to think about this. You jumped in the pool. That was a choice you made, and we are all you, me, everybody in the world is a sum of the decisions and choices and things that they've been through in their life. It, that's it. And so, good choices, bad choices, so on and so forth. So, uh, but she said, you jumped in the pool. That was a choice you made. But God was there. Jesus was there.
Mm-hmm.
They helped pull you out. That's how you got out. That's why you're still here.
That's why you're here.
It, and so the gentleman, Tom Cooper, belonged to a church that had about 5,000 people. And they had three services, 1,500 people in each service. And he stayed at each service to ask for prayer for me. Plus, my mom did at our church back in our small farm town. Plus, other people did it. I hope other people did. I mean, it seems like they did. So, I'm going to get to a point about prayer. Okay. And throughout my time there, I'm a AAA personality, extrovert, hard headed, stubborn. You tell me, I mean, it's like my cousin told me, do not, that was in the Marine Corps. He says, do not go in the Marine Corps. If you go in the Marine Corps, I'm going to hunt you down. I'm going to whoop your butt. He said, do not go in the Marine Corps. So what do? I got to go in the Marine Corps. It's like your dad telling you, don't ride your bike down to the grocery store and get a Coke or something. I mean, but what are you going to do? Vernon's going to get on his bike and ride down to the grocery store or the neighborhood store, whatever. And so about unbeknownst to me, I didn't read it till later, but I can say it now. And they had a round table on me. Well, first of all, my mom said after that, she says, and she got me a book, and it's called Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. And it's written by a Rabbi Cushman, and obviously Jewish, but the book doesn't mention anything about Jewish, and it doesn't matter if it did. But there was a passage in there that really got my attention. And what it was a child crawling around on a table in a kitchen with a mother cooking her food next to an open window. It's say 5 or 6 stories up in an apartment building. And the child's like 8 months old and he gets too close to the window and the child falls out of the window, falls down to the ground, it hits the pavement and dies. But why doesn't God put his hand out and save that child? Why? Well, because God made something called gravity. What goes up must come down. If it goes out the window, it's going to go down. Now, it wasn't the baby's fault or the child's fault, but the mother should have put a screen up or closed the window or not had the child on the table. That's whose fault it was. So you have to take it back. In other words, a lot of people will say, God did it. No, God didn't do it. The child fell out and there's a thing called gravity. That's what happened. End of story. So, but they had a round table maybe another 2 months later. And I didn't read this for years. It was 5, 6, 7 years later, maybe longer than that. And they had three concerns from the round table. And at the round table were the people from, and I'm getting to prayer because this is an important part, I think. Um, uh, the round table was physical therapists, occupational therapists, the doctors, the nurses, the people that uh, I don't know, help acclimate you back to society. I can't think what the word is, but they had three concerns, three main concerns that came up. One was I talked a lot about having been hospitalized before and how long and what I'd been through and all that. And they, for some reason, I don't know why they mentioned, but nobody ever said anything to me about it. But they didn't feel that that was in my best interest. Well, I think that's a bunch of crap. That's in my best interest because I realized and think back, what did I go through? What did I have to overcome? What had I failed at? What didn't work? What did work? And how can I apply it to this situation? No different than business, no different than life. It's like if Vernon swings high and the balls are always going low, well, maybe Vernon needs to swing low and he'll hit the ball. I mean, it's like, it's just basic, simple stuff. What did I learn before that I can apply? So that was number one. Number two was that I worked. We had 3.5 hours, if I'm not mistaken, of therapy in the morning and 3.5 hours of occupational therapy in the afternoon. And you're supposed to rest in between, regain your, composure and heartbeat or whatever, and strength, and then in the evenings, rest. That was a big thing. So I never rested. I didn't. I worked at it all the time, and they said Mr. Setchell not only works himself to the point of exhaustion, he works himself past the point of exhaustion,
Mm.
and it's in the paperwork. I mean, I'm not making it up. And the point was, that it's like when I was in therapy. If they tell you to raise your arm 3 times, I'd raise it 5. Once it got working, right? And then they said, no, I said 3. I'd raise it 6. Of course, they said to me, okay, smarty, raise it 7. I'd raise it 10. I don't care. Don't tell me that I can't do it because I don't know how you are as a person, but I am going to accomplish it. That's just me. I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight. I'm never going to quit. Never going to quit. And that's just something God put in me. The third thing was they said they were concerned about my mental condition when I realized I would never walk. Because I always said, I'm going to walk. I am going to walk out of this hospital. I believe that with every bit of faith in my heart that God wanted me to walk out of the hospital. And so during Monday through Saturday, no matter how much I worked at this stuff, I I would see improvement, but it seemed like on Sundays when I wasn't doing anything, I'm kind of laying in bed and I'm kind of I'm doing whatever I can do and I got a halo cast bolted in my skull and it's not good and you're still mostly my right side's always been pretty much it's been paralyzed. It's never my right leg's completely paralyzed. My left one was not the best and now it's bad as well. And but I got more movement back on Sundays. It's like all that prayer from those 4,500 people or 5,000 people, my mom's church,
Mm.
whatever. That prayer lifted all of what I had been doing up.
Got you. Got you.
And that's kind of it's a story. It's not just it just something that happens. There's a it's like going through the alphabet. You don't go A Q L P,
You start with
you,
AB, huh?
yeah, you got to do it right, okay? So I think that those things so that's what really got my faith going.
Bless God.
And after that, I mean that's what really connected all the dots,
Got you.
you
Jay,
know,
my
and
producer's telling me we got 3 minutes here. I want to make sure we get your book and how
whoa.
people can get you.
Okay. Well, the name of the book is The Strength Within You. It's Always Too Soon to Quit.
Ooh,
The Strength Within You. It's Always Too Soon to Quit. They can get it on Amazon. I got a hardback coming out. The soft cover's out. The ebook is out. Um, but and it does talk about about some of my medical problems and things I've been through and COVID from 4 years ago. And they told my wife to go home and make funeral arrangements. And I spent 5 months in 4 hospitals and what I went through with that. There's a little bit in there, but the main purpose of the book
Mm-hmm.
is to get people to understand
Mm-hmm.
that they have within themselves a strength that they need to find. Whether that's in Vernon, the way dad smacked the crap out of him when he was a kid because he lipped off, or he can feel that belt coming out of the belt loops. I remember that noise. Me, I do.
Yeah.
You know, but whether it was your upbringing, whether it's in your DNA, whether it's in your from what you got from church, whether it's your neighbors, is it anger? Is it frustration? Is it pain? Pain within you, if you're busy doing something, really concentrating on something, you don't think about the pain. But when you sit there and do nothing, all of a sudden that pain hurts like heck. If I whack you right now in the right shin with a baseball bat, not real hard, but hard enough to put you over, you're going to think about it real hard until I hit you alongside the head, and then it's going to hurt worse. It's like, God dang, I forgot it. My leg hurts too. So, anyhow, but it's about the strength within you. How can you find that strength? Where can you find it? And then what it does for you? Because when you find that strength, it helps you find once you found that resilience, that courage, that determination, the perseverance, the grit to be tough, to hack it. Okay, that helps you through the adversities. That helps you through so many things in your life, the adversities, the roadblocks, the detours that you're going to take in your life, the failures, maybe success. I need help with success. And where am I going to get that to learn that? So that's what the strength within you, that's in here.
All
And it's
right.
always too soon to quit.
All right. What is your?
And
Do you have a website, a
I,
Facebook,
I,
or
I
how a
well,
email?
I, I got a website. They're still working on it. I'm
Okay.
trying to get them to wrap it up. The website name is, believe it or not, is neverquittrying.com.
Never quit trying. Will
Never
do.
quit trying.
Man, Jay, I listen. What you have been through has been absolutely amazing, but I believe God has brought you through it. I believe He's brought you through it for a time such as this. And I tell you, you're going to bless our audience when you see this. So many people are going through so many things in their life that I think that this is going to
Yeah.
be a blessing and it's going to really help them out in such a way. And I would love for you to come back and tell this second half, because I know there's a second half to that. We've just reached up to age 35, 40. We haven't even got to
You
where we
no,
going.
you haven't even got. Yeah, you're only at age 31, and I'm
We at age
76.
31. There's still so many things after that. But I appreciate you coming on today, and we'll definitely get back with you at your email so you can come back and tell us, our audience, that other half. And I tell you, this has been a blessing. Y'all make sure y'all go grab that book on Amazon. Y'all make sure y'all look him up. All of that will be on the screen at the credits roll. Make sure you go and support Jay, because God has blessed him and left him here for a reason. So Jay, we thank you for being on.
And may I say one other word?
You sure can. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just real quick. I think something that I want to take two things away at the end of this, and there's 10 two-letter words that everybody has to reach inside. If it is to be, it is up to me.
If it is to
And
be,
it
it's
is
up to
up to
me.
me. And that's very important. And the other thing is that no matter what lies behind us or what lies in front of us, they are small matters compared to what lies within us.
Mm,
That's where the strength comes from.
all right.
But thank you, Vernon. I
Oh,
appreciate it, sir. And I would like to get back because I would like to tell you how I got out of the hospital, and I can't tell you without having tears.
right. Well, we'll definitely get you back on so you could do that, because I think it's worth it. So, look out for that email in the next day or two, and we can set up a time for you to come back and tell part two of that.
You betcha.
All
Thank
right,
you,
my
sir.
friend. Yeah. Listen, let me tell you guys something. This is one of the ones you need to listen to again and again, because whenever you get discouraged, whenever you want to quit, you can look at this testimony. And that's what testimonies are for. It's so that they can give us strength, they can give us hope, and so that we can be able to accomplish those things. And so, listen, Jay is the kind of person that he's not going to give up. And you can take some solace in that, and you can pour from that experience that he has, so that you don't have to give up. Somebody here right now may be watching this, and you may be saying, I don't know what else to do. I don't have any other reason to live for. Listen, you might have a testimony for somebody else, just like Jay had a testimony for you. We thank you for being a part of the Watch Party podcast. Make sure you jump on our website, kingdompurposemedia.com, and go on there and look on there. You're going to see a whole bunch of podcasts. You're going to also see a lot of people that have weekly time slots, a lot of hosts. Go and support those so that we can keep getting this kingdom message to the masses. We thank all of you for being a part of what we're doing, and we're believing God for the best. We thank you for watching the Watch Party podcast. Until next time, we'll see you.